The recruiting of the Mormon Battalion took place over a couple-week time period, the first 2 weeks of July of 1846. The first 4 companies were organized and left Council Bluffs on July 16th, traveling 7 miles south, crossing the Missouri River and stopping at a place referred to as Sarpy's Trading Post. The 5th Company continued to recruit until it was filled and followed the first 4 companies a few days later. Of this day, Wilford Woodruff recorded,
"This was an interesting day in the camp of Israel. 4 companies of the volunteers were brought together in a hollow square by their captains and interestingly addressed by several of the quorum of the 12. At the close of the meeting, they marched in double file from Redemption Hill across the Missouri River bottom to the ferry, 7 miles.
It was at Sarpy's Trading Post that the men in the battalion were able to obtain a blanket and purchase other supplies as needed. Here they would also form a temporary soldiers' camp until they left for Fort Leavenworth on the 21st. Private Zadok Judd of Company E recorded,
We were allowed to go to an Indian trading post, which was there on the bank of the Missouri River, and each one draw a blanket to be paid for out of pay.
Private Henry Bigler of Company B recorded,
On the 21st of July at 12 o'clock, Captain Allen took up the line of march for Fort Leavenworth, 200 miles distant, the men keeping time to the tune of The Girl I Left Behind Me. To me, this was a solemn time, as also to others, though to a casual observer, we may not have shown it. Leaving families, friends, near and dear relatives, not knowing for how long, and perhaps to see them no more in this life. I bid my folks farewell, and did not see them again for 9 years.
On Saturday, August 1st at 8 a.m., the battalion started crossing the Missouri River on the government ferry, with the final group crossing about 2 p.m., then marched into Fort Leavenworth. Of this occasion, John Tibbetts recorded,
Apparently Colonel Allen wanted to show off the group as well, for we all got over, formed a line, and marched up through the fort in order.
It was here the battalion was equipped, issued weapons, received their clothing allowance, purchased personal supplies, were sworn into service, drilled, and made other preparations for their upcoming march. Shortly after their arrival, tents were issued and the men began setting up camp. On August 3rd and August 4th, each company in the Mormon Battalion drew their muskets and accoutrements. Colonel Allen passed by the excited men lined up at the arsenal and said,
Stand back, boys, and don't be in too big a hurry to get your guns, for you will all be tired of them before you get to California.
The musket that was issued to the Mormon Battalion was the Model 1816 flintlock musket. It was smooth bore and fired a .69 caliber musket ball. As far as the leather accoutrements, there were a couple of different types that were available to the Mormon Battalion. We know that companies A and D were issued the 1839 pattern cartridge box and white buff sling because they were also issued the U.S. brass plate that was attached. Some of the companies or some of the men may have been issued the Model 1828 cartridge box. It was recorded by several members of the Mormon Battalion that a couple days later, on August 6th, the men were sworn into service and had the military law read to them.
I, stating their name, do solemnly swear that I will bear true allegiance to the United States of America, and that I will serve them honestly and faithfully against all their enemies or opposers whatsoever, and observe and obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the rules and articles for the government of the armies of the United States.
Based on what little information we have, drilling and military instruction was minimal. Additional instruction was given to these men as to the operation of their flintlock musket, how they were handled. They were also given instruction on how to wear their accoutrements, their leather, properly. The cartridge box was carried on the right side. The shoulder belt or baldric was carried over the right shoulder, hanging on the left side, the belt that held everything together. They were given basic instruction on order arms, shoulder arms, right shoulder shift, how to properly line up in formation. They were lined up into 2 ranks or 2 rows and taught left and right faces. Basic information pertaining to drill was given. However, it is understood that very little military instruction was given, and some of that was provided at a later date. What did others think of the battalion? Lieutenant Wilson of the 1st Regiment of Dragoons wrote,
I reached this place 2 days ago, and having a little time to spare, take this opportunity of writing to you. I found here more than 2,000 troops, if these untamed volunteers deserve the name, but the number is daily diminishing as they are put en route for Santa Fe. This place is, at present, a perfect bedlam, the damnedest noisy, dusty place that I have ever met with. You can hear nothing, for the teamsters are breaking mules and oxen to the wagons, and cursing, yelling at, and thrashing them incessantly. The Mormon forces are getting under headway today. I have just seen the rear of the 3rd Mormon Company file past. There are several more of the same command to leave tomorrow. The Mormons are the most orderly of the forces that I have seen at this place. I think that they are more likely to do credit to themselves, if brought into action, than the other volunteers.
Along the same lines, Sergeant William Hyde recorded.
Colonel Allen was pleased with his battalion, and was heard to say while in conversation with some of the chief officers in the garrison that he had never been under the necessity of giving the word of command a second time. Notwithstanding we were unacquainted with military tactics, we were willing to obey orders.
For almost 2 weeks, the battalion remained at Fort Leavenworth. William Corey, in reference to what they were doing, wrote,
Preparations for marching, breaking mules, buying wagons, drying knapsacks and haversacks, etc. were the principal business of the battalion this day.
After being equipped and receiving of some training, 3 companies left Fort Leavenworth on August 13th. The other 2 companies left on the 15th and followed the same trail.
I'm lonesome since I crossed the hill and o'er the moor and valley. Such heavy thoughts my heart do fill since parting with my Sally. I seek no more the fine and gay, for each but does remind me how swiftly hours did pass away with the girl